Okay, welcome to the segment for this episode. I am your host, Randall Kolinek. To my left, which is your right, is Curtis Kalina, and to my right, which is your left, is Chris Dale. And this week we'll be discussing the 5 people we would like to meet the most. And the rules for this are unlimited, dead, alive, fictional, real, doesn't matter, okay?
And
And,
language barrier.
huh?
Don't forget the language thing.
Yes, and there is no language barrier that exists. If the person is foreign, they speak English now, so. And all these guests are at the same table with you. So if that makes any difference, okay?
All at the same time.
Yes, all at the same time. I'll throw it to Curtis to start with.
Okay, you just want me to go up down my list then?
And a brief explanation before you start, a wider explanation, yes. Maybe who
Okay.
they were.
Hitler, as in Adolf, everyone knows who he is, pretty much. I chose him because I think it would be interesting to get into the mind of a person who was able to influence so many people to do such a rational thing all of a sudden. And I think it would be interesting to maybe learn a bit of that persuasiveness and get a feel for it. Jimi Hendrix, because he's my favorite musical artist, so I'd like to be able to just have a conversation with him, get to know him. Julius Caesar, because, well, I've always been interested in history. It's always been my favorite subject, and he seemed like a very big part of it. Well, just to me anyway. James Joyce. He wrote books. He was an author. Unfortunately, he died before he could make too many, but he made some good ones, and I just like to be able to get to know him too. And Edgar Allan Poe, because it would be very interesting to try and understand the mind of a person who was, for
All intents and purposes.
All intents and purposes, mental, nearly insane, and yeah.
Alright, we'll get to more on that in a second. Chris, if you will read down your list.
Yes. Okay, my first choice is Gandhi because I like to look at a man who struggled a lot for his people, for what he believed in. I like to get into the mind of someone like that. Then Mark Twain because he's one of my favorite authors. I just like to have a discussion with him. Notice a personal one. Stevie Ray Vaughan because he's a very good guitarist, and I just like to talk to one good guitarist. Malcolm X because he was a radical, and before he died he was starting to change his views, and I would have liked to know if he would actually change his views and not be so radical towards the end. And Bruce Lee because he's a very good actor, and I don't know, I just like him.
I think Bruce Lee's an interesting pick because he spans 2 gamuts. He's both an actor and a martial artist, and it's an introspective on 2 things in life. Okay, my list. First off, Lemmy from Motorhead, because there's no guy like Lemmy. He's been through it all, and that's just interesting in its own right. Quentin Tarantino, my favorite filmmaker. Just interesting films. I assume he'd be an interesting person. Cliff Burton, the greatest bass player that ever lived, hands down.
I thought that was Lemmy.
Lemmy's a good bass player, but he's no Cliff Burton. Cliff did stuff. When someone does something innovative, everyone else just seems to rip it off, but no one has done what Cliff did since then. No one's ventured that much into the bass. He is the Jimi Hendrix of the bass. It was just a rhythm instrument. He took it into new territory. They said he was a lead bass player because it was so out there as opposed to normal bass players.
Yet.
4th, Spike Lee, because I hate Spike Lee. He's a terrible human being. I just like to ream him a new one. And 5th, Harry Truman, because I think it'd be interesting to talk to the only president who's dropped an atomic bomb and just get a real introspective on what went through his mind when he did that. Alright, anyone want to comment about anyone else's picks?
Let me take
I think Chris might have the most interesting list here for the fact that he spans the gamut more. Like I have 2 musicians and 2 filmmakers. You have 2 technically 3 writers if you count Hitler. He has a world leader in Gandhi, a writer in Twain, a musician in Stevie Ray Vaughan, a radical in Malcolm X, and a martial artist / actor in Bruce Lee. This is probably the most eclectic list in this case. Malcolm X, I don't know if I'm going to be the same table as him. He seems a bit too radical for my taste. And Mark Twain was all mustache. And Gandhi, if we're talking at the table, dinner is going to be boring because Gandhi's not going to order anything. He's not going to pay for any of the tip. Okay, that has been the segment for this week. Now with us anyway. Now we're going to throw it to some people that we interviewed outside of the round table, and we'll see what their views are.
So, Philip, if you could have a conversation with any 5 people, who would you choose?
Well, the first one is kind of fictional. It'd probably be Sasquatch, because, you know, how feared he is, and a beastly animal scares the you-know-what out of people, so that's that. Second one, old honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln, you know, freeing the slaves, noble man, probably considered the greatest president ever. That's that. The third one, probably the first president, George Washington, for being a great general, leader, first president, you know, fighting those Brits, annoying Brits. Fourth one, how about Michael Jackson? God, what kind of dance moves did he have? Great songs, you know. You know, he might have turned white, but he was black inside the whole time. And fifth one, did I say the fourth one?
Yeah, this is your 5th now.
Okay, this will be the 5th one. How about our current president, Barack Obama? You know, he sounds like a pretty good speaker. I don't agree with his policies, but just being able to talk to one of our presidents, that would be very honorable. And that's that.
All right, thank you. So, if you could have a conversation with any 5 people, who would you pick?
I'd pick my grandpa Freitag. He's dead. I'd like to talk to him again. He was born in 1897, and I'd like to hear his life story again. Abraham Lincoln. He was one of the greatest presidents of all time. Same thing with George Washington, founder of our country, really. The guy that made it all start, first president. Vince Lombardi, Green Bay Packers legendary coach, one of the greatest football coaches in the history of football. Great one-liners, smart man, a lot of wisdom. And I forgot who the other one was.
I think you said God.
God. I'd like to talk to God, just see what everything's about. That's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, if you could have a conversation with any 5 people, who would you choose?
Well, the first 2, I would choose my grandpa and my grandma because they both dead now, and I wish I could have a conversation with them and tell them how I'm doing and how they're doing and what's good, and yeah, basically. And then the third person, I would say my ex-girlfriend because she died with a heart attack, and I wish I could say the last word to her how much I care about her still. And the fourth one, if I had a conversation, I would talk to Martin Luther King because what he did for us, I just want to say thank you for what he did with segregation and everything. And the fifth one, I choose my brother because he's off in college and he's worried about him, and we had good and bad times, and basically I wish we had more time together to spend, but yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ready?
So if you could have a conversation with any 5 people, who would you choose?
I would have to say Lil Wayne, Wiz Khalifa, Trey Songz, Drake, and probably my grandpa that's passed away. Probably
Okay,
him.
can you give us a couple of reasons why?
They're all sexy besides my grandpa. I'm just saying, I'm gonna say my grandpa's sexy. Just those rappers are sexy, and they're good at rapping. So
Okay, is that
that's
it?
why. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Megan Fox.
If you could have a conversation with any 5 people, who would you choose?
I would choose the band of MCR, My Chemical Romance, because they have great music. They inspire me. I would like to ask them what inspired them to write the kind of music that they do and what it means to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining the panel this week. For my guests, Curtis Kalina, Chris Dale, I am Randall Kolinek, and that was all for this episode. We'll see you next time.